Hi there, Christine Weber here. Welcome to my weekly live stream. I love supporting mature yoga teachers, getting their work out there into the world. So thank you for being here. And I hope this information is helpful for you. I'm going to today be talking about the old navel to spine cue and why we may want to be rethinking that. Hey, I'm not quite sure if my microphone is working. So if you're watching live, can you just leave a little comment and say, yeah, your mic's working? I'd appreciate that. Okay, so I want to take you back to the 1970s when Pattabhi Jois first came over to California and to Hawaii and started teaching his Ashtanga yoga system. Now, I did a little research on the reason why uddiyana has been used in asanas, because I couldn't really find it in a lot of the more traditional, like I didn't really see people talking about uddiyana before the 1970s when it became really, really popular. Uddiyana is the belly lock. So it's done like with an exhale, and then draw the belly in. Let's get it over here. And then there's like a vacuuming feeling in the belly. So it's like some people will call it vacuum belly, like I know, or even Arnold Schwarzenegger practiced it. I know it was in his practice, and it's a very specific practice, however. So you don't see it in the Hatha Yoga tradition until you get to until you get up to Pattabhi Jois starting to teach everywhere, and especially in America. So he's really the reason that yoga became such a popular fitness trend, because he came and he was teaching this very strenuous form of asana practice. I mean, maybe it's not strenuous. It was originally created for teenage boys, so maybe it's not that strenuous if you're a teenage boy. But then, lots of middle-aged women were practicing it for decades. And the instruction is often navel to spine, often. So uddiyana when you're in down dog, uddiyana when you're in a forward bend, uddiyana when you're doing anything becomes very, very common in the practice. And then what happens is his students from California, largely from Hawaii, started to rebel a little bit against the primary series, and they wanted to teach more expansively, more interesting, different poses. They wanted to weave all that in. And then you have the birth of vinyasa flow. And so vinyasa yoga becomes very popular in the 80s and really, really takes off in the 90s and becomes a fitness strategy. So we've extracted yoga from its roots as a spiritual practice and plugged it into the schedule in the gym as another thing you could do with, whatever HIIT workout and whatever else you're doing. You can plug in the yoga, right? And with it comes this uddiyana thing. So you have people doing, the teachers telling you to recruit the abdominal muscles and draw the belly in all the time, and using that for 45 or 60 minutes of practice. So the issue, of course, becomes that that can cause problems. And so what I'm seeing now, 30 years later, is quite a few yoga teachers, ex-yoga teachers, who are now fitness experts, because they were fitness experts to begin with. They were fitness yoga people. And then they abandoned yoga. They said, yoga is not good for you. Yoga creates all sorts of back problems, and it's hypermobile, and nobody's using their muscles. And then they start becoming fitness teachers, and they're doing, working with weights or using different other fitnessy kind of things to teach their kind of yoga-ish hybrid practices, right? And a lot of them are out there on social media right now saying, what is this navel to spine stuff? Or why are we teaching this, draw your belly in? Why are we doing uddiyana all the time? Good, I'm glad they're finally questioning that stuff, because that's not how the practice was meant to be done. And certainly not how I learned how to do it from my teachers, my pre-Vini yoga teachers, or my Vini yoga teachers, or other teachers that I really respect that I've worked with over the years. So what can you do instead? What does it mean? Well, one of the cues that I'm starting to use less of is navel to spine, although I think it still has its application. It's not, you don't hold it for the whole practice. The other thing is, a lot of those teachers, the extent of their breath knowledge is inhale, arms up, exhale, arms down. I mean, seriously, that's what you see all the time. And fast breathing. Inhale, reach, exhale into the pose. Like that sort of stuff is what you see. So there's a lack of nuance about the understanding of how the breath moves through the body, the biomechanics of breathing, the respiratory structures, as well as how breath laces in or interlaces with movement. And when you don't understand that stuff and you haven't been taught that stuff, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I think that's what we're seeing. That's what we've seen. And now we're seeing people say, hey, this isn't good. And I'm glad. So let's go back to the basics. First of all, uddiyana is its own practice. And so are the Agnisara practices and the Tadaka Mudra and the Mula Bandha and the Jalandhara Bandha. They all have specific applications, and they're not meant to be done all the time at all. And that's not how Krishnamacharya was teaching it. I know that because I studied with teachers who had studied with his son Desikachar, and he taught Desikachar something very different. So if you just get a snapshot of uddiyana and okay, so you use Jalandhara, uddiyana, and Mula Bandha in down dog for this application, and you take that snapshot and you apply it to everybody all the time, you're going to have problems because it doesn't work like that. That's not how the system works. It's much more complex and sophisticated and nuanced than that. So instead, what can we teach? Well, a simple thing. First of all, we have to start learning how to teach people to breathe. And the inhale, the arms up, the rib cage lifts up out of the hips. And there's a 360-degree expansion that then ends in the belly being soft. And when you exhale, the arms can float down. And we do want to learn how to 360 recruit the abdominal accessory musculature of exhalation, because that helps the diaphragm to redome to its original position so that the inhale is more optimized. So 5 or 10% of a drawing in, and I'm using that cue more these days, of drawing everything in like a corset, 5 to 10%, is better than sucking the navel in. And it has a very lovely application, and it teaches the students that you can recruit those abdominal muscles to support your exhalation in the service of activating the parasympathetic response of the nervous system. So if you're teaching nervous system yoga as opposed to, muscle and stretching yoga, you have this opportunity to explain how the breath works, because the breath is the direct line into the autonomic nervous system that then helps to create neuroplastic changes when you repeat the practice over and over again and continue studying with me. Come to my classes every week and you'll start to see changes in your nervous system. That explanation is very different than suck your navel in because it's good for your back. And even it's not even good for your back. Like when you really suck it in strong, actually you're you're decreasing the abdominal pressure, and you're using less obliques and erector spinae muscles. So you're using less of those muscles actually when your body when you're trying to get stability. So it's almost it's very like a counterintuitive thing. You think like sucking the belly and it's going to make your back stronger. It almost doesn't. Whereas if we have this idea of, it doesn't, I should say, if they have this idea of just a little bit of a corset idea on the exhale, and then on inhale is when we do extension. On exhale, a little bit of a corset as I go into flexion or into rotation on the exhale, because that's just supporting the massage of the digestive organs, giving us, tuning us into those physiologic benefits of yoga that are so underrated and under-discussed. And yet, when we really focus on yoga for those reasons, we can really have some incredibly positive health outcomes that go beyond what your body looks like, or getting your yoga butt and all that stuff. So the other reason to be mindful of not overdoing the uddiyana is it's not good for the pelvic floor. It's certainly contraindicated in the cases of pregnancy, and it's also not good for your neck muscles. It can also exacerbate acid reflux. So there's lots of reasons to stay clear of that suck it in all the time idea. And there's lots of reasons to learn how to weave the breath into the asana practice in a way that makes a lot of sense for the nervous system. So if you're interested and you want to go deeper with me on any of this stuff, we have a really good sale going on this week on our courses. Well, it'll start on Friday, actually. On a bunch of our courses, we have 40% off sale. And I have a brand new course called The Magic of Therapeutic Breathwork. It's all fully recorded. And that's coming out on Friday. So very excited to share that with you. Please leave a comment about this. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you next week. Take care.